Hi everybody, SW Miron here. Please excuse my voice. I've been sick for the past week. I'm still a bit under the weather, but I didn't want to let you guys down, so I'm making sure to have a video for you this week. I have a presentation coming up in July. I was invited by the sheriff and by the health department, someone from the health department, to come and be a presenter at the next SPARE coalition meeting. And SPARE is a fancy acronym that stands for a bunch of nice things, but it used to be called the Heroin Coalition. So where we're going with this is down the rabbit hole of addiction. Okay. I was asked to present not because I am some sort of, researcher in the field or some medical professional who knows things about addiction. I was invited to talk because the woman at the health department saw my book somehow. I don't know how she got it or came across it, but I'm glad she did. She read it. She told me that she was almost all the way through the book, and she said that she had a son that struggled with similar struggles to the ones I've had over my life. So I got invited to come and present. So July 22nd, it's going to be at Hudson Valley Community College. So if you're native to upstate New York, it's a free event. It's on a Wednesday, midweek. It's from like 10 a.m. until noon. So it'll be like an hour of me presenting and basically telling my story that's encapsulated in 260 pages, but doing it in an hour's time. To put it in perspective, it took me a year to write 260 pages and put the story together. So it is quite the challenge, the idea of giving like a Cliff Notes version, I guess. But excuse me. Sorry. I hate being sick. Anyway, I'm really excited for that. That's going to be coming up in just about a month. So yeah, I wanted to kind of switch things up a little bit, and especially because I'm sick and I I don't really feel up to much right now, but I thought a good way to start to teach people who maybe don't know what it's like to be an addict. I want people to have a taste of my experience. So I'm going to read to you a little bit from Scenes from My Skeleton Closet. Also going to be the Cliff Notes version, because if I just read you all of this, it would, be a long story time. But, all right. I was always taught drugs were bad. And basically in my family's world, anything but alcohol counted as a drug. Weed wasn't legal, so they looked at any and all illegal drugs as if they were on the same tier. Sorry, heroin is just never going to stand up next to cocaine or Molly. I'm not going to go too far down this rabbit hole, but an important distinction needs to be made here. Up until 2012, I still only used alcohol and weed, but never anything else, even though it was all around me. They say you are the company you keep. I'm going to stop right there. People, places, things. You learn about that in recovery. You learn about it in rehab. You learn about it in meetings, Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, Narcotics Anonymous meetings. I particularly didn't ever connect with just what was going on at the AA meetings. That I felt that it was there was this religious component that I just really struggled with. I've been through a lot of trauma in my life, and I don't know how to say this like gently. Like, we all have been through some really terrible shit in our lives, and Lord knows it's not a contest. But like, once something happens to you, like getting raped by two men when you're a 15-year-old girl. Like, it's very, very hard, or at least I've found it's been very hard for me to stay rooted in faith because I've spent so much time being angry with God. And, you know, I don't know. I could talk about this for a long time. I'm not going to. I've made it all the way to a place that I feel a lot differently than I used to feel. I don't feel so angry with God anymore. I don't feel like it was like his fault or even his plan. But what is important to recognize is that like I thought going to the AA meetings would be helpful for me. And like a lot of people that are in recovery, they say, you know, hey, it doesn't matter like what your drug of choice was. Like, just come to a meeting, you know, be around other sober people, be around other clean people. Yeah, absolutely. And I would strongly encourage people to go to meetings. But for me, I don't know if it was like the particular one I was going to or the way the person leading the meeting was doing it. I don't know. It just was feeling very like preachy and just like really shoving like some religious stuff down my throat. And it just wasn't, I wasn't in a place where I could even think about changing the way my mind was made up about God at that time. So I don't know. At the NA meetings, I felt that it didn't come across that way. Again, the person that was running it makes a big difference. I found a meeting that I really liked. It was once a week. It was actually in Arbor Hill. So anybody who's local to the Albany area would probably recognize Arbor Hill as being maybe a not so nice area in some parts. And you know, I'd be lying if I said to you that, you know, I'm sure my parents have, they haven't lost sleep or anything over the fact that I had to, you know, go into the hood to go to these meetings by choice. And there were other ones to go to, no doubt. I tried all these different ones. But I really connected with the group of people that was at the one in Arbor Hill. And it was when I felt most heard. I could be the most real. I was not judged. There were people in that room that had been clean for 30 years. There were people in that room who had been clean for one day. So we had everybody in there. We had the whole gamut. And it really made for an amazing experience week in and week out. And to know, in case you don't know, it's free to go to these meetings. You don't need like health insurance. You don't need to pay a copay. You don't need to pay a fee to participate. They're free. And they have meetings no matter where you live. There's meetings everywhere. You just have to find out where they are. So that's something, if you're someone that is struggling with addiction, I would strongly, strongly encourage you to find a meeting. I think that's a really good place to start. You know, addiction is such a unique thing to each individual, and it is most certainly a disease. I know there's people who don't subscribe to that, and to those people, I mean, okay. But I do, because I've lived it, and according to the Diagnostical and Statistical Manual of Mental Health, Volume 5, substance abuse disorder is a mental illness, a diagnosable mental illness. Illness, disease. Seeing the connection? I hope so. But just because it's a disease doesn't mean that takes your accountability out of it. Like, you can't, I know people that really try to like use that as a crutch and as an excuse for their behavior and be like, well, I have a disease. Well, if people like who are struggling with cancer, you know, use the fact that they had cancer or tried to use the fact that they had cancer as their means of like getting what they wanted, when they wanted, how they wanted, it'd be pretty fucked up. So I liken it to that. Not everybody has the ability to look at something like someone who's in it with addiction and from the outside make any sense of the person's decisions, behaviors. You know, I started to isolate from my family. I started to be very irritable. Like, I have a mood disorder to begin with. I have bipolar, and that's characterized by like this extreme shifts in mood. But like when you amp it by adding drugs, especially the drugs I was doing, yeah, it no, it was horrible. I am very, very lucky to be alive. I'm going to read you a little bit more. I never used to believe that you are the company you keep, until a series of unfortunate events led to me having no option but to look that right in the face and own it for being the truth. I dabbled with Molly and ecstasy here and there for a couple nights out, but it wasn't until festivals in the go-go dance world that things started to get out of hand. 2013 was Molly every weekend, and always tons of alcohol and weed. It wasn't until I found cocaine and fell in one of the deepest loves of my life. Remember, just because you fall in love doesn't mean it's healthy. This actually is no doubt the most toxic relationship I've ever been in. And once addiction has you in its grips, you take chances on your life with a magic 8-ball. No Coke pun intended. It only takes one time to take bad drugs and die. I had spent a lot of my life thinking about death or wanting to die, but I'll tell you what, this whole time, I think in the back of my mind, I had this dark hope that I'd be one of the lucky ones who takes a drug and then is gone out of this world 6 feet under. Let's be clear. There would be nothing lucky about that. 23-year-old Stephanie had that perspective. I was miserable and lonely and just sick of numbing myself every day. If we're talking about luck, I'm lucky to be alive, to put it lightly, and I don't let a day pass me by where I don't take a moment or two to appreciate that. On September 4th, 2014, I overdosed on 60 clonazepam through the nose, mixed with bottles of champagne. I had the night before, made up my mind. I'd planned this suicide attempt, and I was like, this is it. Like, I got to get out of here. I can't like exist in this world the way I've been existing. And I'm very lucky that I woke up. I remember laying in bed, and my friend at the time, she laid next to me. It was like 3 or 4 in the morning, and my breathing was really shallow, and I remember my heart feeling like it was just beating like so slow. Like I could feel it like really, like it was gonna stop almost. Like I was like right there. And if it wasn't for my friend that was there with me, I don't know. I don't really know if I ended up falling asleep for a couple hours or not. I really don't know. But I do know that when I was awake, it was like 6 o'clock in the morning. My friend had to go to work, but she was fucking terrified at what she had just seen the night before. She had caught on to what I was doing because she knew I wasn't someone who ever did clonazepam or any prescription medication like that as like a recreational substance. So that was a big red flag to her to begin with, especially too because like I was addicted to cocaine, and that's an upper. That's something that it gives you, or at least what it used to give me is I used to feel like I had a break from just feeling this constant turmoil in my head. It was just like this break from reality where you felt nothing but like happiness and positivity, and like, yeah, that sounds great. Like that sounds like it could be an advertisement to be like, yeah, do cocaine, it's going to make your life great. But no, No, not great at all. If you have someone in your life, or you yourself, is struggling with addiction and mental illness, I happily would talk with anyone who ever reached out to me. Anybody. I'm totally an open book in that way. You can leave a comment here. I have my Facebook page, SW Miron. That's Miron. You can message me through that. I find that for a lot of people that are thinking about making that huge change in your life, it can help so much if you have somebody that's like reaching their hand out to you for you to help pull them to the other side. And I was fortunate enough to have some like wonderful people in my life that didn't participate in doing these drugs and didn't, have a problem like I did. So they, could choose to refrain from using anything in the years that it took for me to really get some clean time underneath my belt and, get some built up strength of being able to, think about something that you were once feeling like you couldn't live without and totally flip it to now looking at it like that's the number one thing that could probably kill me above anything else. And like I said, I'm very, very fortunate to be here. I know that's not the most cheerful video to watch, but addiction's a tough one. I really hope that you check out a meeting. Actually, I would recommend that to anybody. Like, even if you're somebody that you don't have anybody in your world that struggles with addiction and you don't yourself, I think every human should get the opportunity to go to at least one meeting and see what it's all about. Because I think that it would really put in perspective and lay to rest a lot of the stigmas that exist about addiction and mental illness if you got to sit in those rooms. Because there's magic that happens there. Well, with that, I'm going to let you guys go. But I'm going to keep drinking some water, go back to bed, probably eat more soup. I'm turning into soup because I've had so much soup. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. And a strategy in one sentence that can help you with your recovery or help someone else with their recovery is counting the days. I used to take a lipstick and write the number of days on my bathroom mirror. And that really helped. So, worth sharing. All right, guys. Thank you for listening. See you next time.